Guys, today we've got Deon and Jackie from Conspirators. Conspirators is a brewery based in Brunswick in Victoria, obviously in Australia. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Oh, thanks for having us.
Absolute pleasure. Now, walking in here, you've got an incredible design. You guys have, the walls, the tables, everything is just done impeccably. And then when you walk in, you've got this beautiful stainless steel wall of tanks on the right hand side. Can you guys run me through number one, who actually designed the place? I'd love to give them a shout out. But secondly, then we can talk about your backgrounds and kind of how you got into it. But I'd just love to know who designed this place because it's really, really cool.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we've got an architect called We're Humble. And that's Tom King that helped us from the start of the project. And it was a 2-year project to get this up and running. And they sort of helped us navigate council and all the design is thanks to them.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, no, they've done a spectacular job. And I love the fact that you've got a foosball table in here and a little area for kids as well. It's brilliant. If we can talk about your backgrounds. Obviously, everyone comes from a vastly different background, and some of the people that we've had on the show have been. Some of them come from a chemical engineering background. Some of them come from a true hospitality background, and some of them just love beer and kind of nothing else. So I'd love to understand a little bit about your background and kind of where you came from and how you got here today.
Sure.
All right, I'll go first. So I've come from a pure hospitality background. That's my background. I worked in hospitality since I was 15 and worked in McDonald's all the way through. Studied hospitality management at school. And worked in pretty much all my adult life. I worked in hotels as a business development manager, so mainly working in the sales and marketing space for hotels. So that's where I came from.
Like events, conferences.
Yeah, events and conferences, yep. corporate clients for room nights. That's sort of what I've done over the last 15 years in various forms of different hotels. So. It's very different to Beerland, but it's definitely helped me when we need brew events and operating the brew pub itself. So cool. That's my background.
Awesome. How about you, Deon?
I've got a background in health, so 15 years as a paramedic, and then just a real keen interest in drinking beer, and that's really where it all sort of started. And
when did you finish off being a paramedic?
Still doing a little bit.
Still doing a little bit.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if it was 2 years ago, you got incredible timing.
Yeah. Look, it's been a tricky sort of couple of years, but I still sort of do a few shifts in ambulance.
Awesome.
But this place keeps me pretty busy. Yeah,
I can imagine. And you guys have two other partners. Who are actual partners and business partners. Can you give me a little bit of info on their backgrounds as well?
Yeah, sure. So Tim, my partner, is a registered nurse. He's mainly working in the workforce management sort of side, sort of management roles. That's his background. Same with Maggie. Well, same with Deon in relation to working in health. So that's his background. Yeah,
perfect.
Maggie's a paramedic as well. So
wow.
So that's sort of where Maggie and I met.
Yeah, and, beautiful. Awesome. When you came and kind of decided, hey, we're going to do this together, can you run me through the story of kind of, number one, potentially how you guys met and decided, or even if you've been friends with for a lot of years, why you guys decided to actually say, okay, we're going to go and do this massive undertaking of starting a brewery?
Yeah, so I guess we met Tim through the Miramash homebrew club, so we were homebrewing for quite a while beforehand. We happened to win a competition which allowed us to rebrew a winning beer on a commercial scale, and more or less at the same time Tim won a comp as well, which allowed him to rebrew on a commercial scale. I think that sort of gave us the taste of brewing bigger batches and doing commercial batches, and sort of gave us a taste for it. So all of us sort of were on a path to do commercial brewing at the same time, we sort of teamed up and sat down at our house and sort of had a chat about sort of initially starting the business. And I think our vision sort of for the brew pub from the first meeting was this is where we'd like to be. So that's it lined up perfectly, and we sort of had the same vision. And
yeah, it was almost 6 years ago.
Yeah,
like next month. So yeah.
And it's a very different undertaking from home brewing to trying to do it at scale, as you guys would have found out really, really quickly.
Yeah.
Going from it being an idea to actually putting it into place, we've got a lot of the listeners to this program are anyone from a craft brewer who's up and moving to maybe a new entrant in the market, or potentially someone who is looking to go and do it.
Yeah.
So I'd love to understand what are all the things that you had to put in place in order to be able to roll this out, because they're big undertakings, and even a hospitality venue on its own is a huge undertaking, and you're getting all your product from suppliers. You guys have to produce your product, and you have to create the hospitality venue as well, and probably a wholesale business and an online business. So there's a lot to it. Can you talk to me about all the building blocks?
Yeah. I guess I can.
I know it's a big question. If we start maybe at the beer production, and then we can roll into the other sections.
Yeah, beer production, we sort of Deon space.
Yeah, so, cool, awesome.
Yeah, I guess if you look at where we are now, and if we were to do what we're doing today from the start, it'd be a massive undertaking. And I think we've taken baby steps, and that's where gypsy brewing was a great way for us to sort of start. And start off with a small batch. Our initial plan was to do a batch every couple of months. We quickly increased that and increased the batch sizes to making pretty big batches, and then sort of steps from there was building this venue, which even then was sort of just small steps at a time. Do this, get one step done, then the next step, then the next step. So we still have a few steps left, including a kitchen and plans for mezzanines and all sorts of things. So sort of building slowly on what we've done. And
the obviously there's a shitload of equipment back there. Can you tell me, getting the equipment in place, do you build the equipment up over time, or do you say from the outset, let's get the full stack out there. Let's make sure we've got everything that we need to be able to go, full scale brewing, or do you kind of build module by module over time to scale up?
The actual brew house, we needed a functioning brew house from the start. So there's always things you can add afterwards, and there's a few little things we like to get and a few things just to want to play around with. But the brew house was built as one unit. A lot of the gear was sourced from all over the place. We got the brew house from the US, glycol from Italy, locally sourced products stuff from China, and then putting all of those pieces together. We've got the brewery front and centre in the middle of the venue, and we put glass doors by where the roll doors used to be. So we don't have the option of bringing more things in and trying to build on it. We sort of had to get everything in on site, get it in position, and then we sort of built the rest of the building around it. So it had to be a working brewery to the size that we need.
And to give you guys a bit of an indication on what it actually looks like, what we're going to do is we're going to take a recording after the podcast, and what we'll do is we'll overlay it onto the podcast, so you'll be able to get a really good indication of exactly what it looks like. Because when you walk in here, it is big, it is really, really cool. Huge high ceilings, rafters, beams everywhere. It's very, very cool. So yeah, we really want to give everyone a view. So that's awesome. Thanks for telling us about setting up the brewing side of things. Now we're talking about the venue, which is probably your space.
Yes.
Do you want to give me a bit of a rundown on all the building blocks of the venue? Because I've set up a venue before. It was a nightmare. There's so many things, and the last few weeks is just ridiculous.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think it was Deon project managed the building of the venue, and liaised with our builders and our architects all the way through the project. And that was a long project. That was almost 2 years from start to finish.
Mm-hmm.
and COVID didn't help planning those sorts of things. But I think even on the lead up to opening the venue, I think it was really hard because Deon and I had, Deon looks after the brewery at the venue, and I was looking after the front of house. Just as our two key staff members, Olmo and Joanna, our venue manager, we had to do all the recruitment online, which was hard because we were all in lockdown. It was hard for all the four of us to actually come and see the venue during those sort of mid 2021 because we had building restrictions. We weren't able to be on site because we only had allowed to have five trades here at the one time, and we were leading up to opening. And when you lead up to opening, you have 30 people here.
Yeah, you do.
When we couldn't even come and visit, because if we visited, that would take away from one trade, and you had to get the venue open. So there was a few hurdles beforehand. So in November of last year, I was already starting to work full time. Deon came on full time. Olmo and our brewer, and Joanna, our venue manager. So then from there, it sort of just went boom, and the boys were brewing. Joanna and I were recruiting front of house staff, stock lists, menus, tables, chairs, glassware. And it was tough for the guys because we had a venue opening and we had no beer, and a brand new brewery. So we had they had to make beer for opening day, and it was manic. It was really. Looking back, it was crazy those first sort of last 6 weeks before we opened. So I think it was tough to find two really key members of staff, and we couldn't do face-to-face interviews. That was probably the most toughest part of it before opening. And
hospitality staff at the best of times are not amazing with technology, or that's what I found. Certainly, I opened a venue, I don't know, 4.5 years ago thereabouts, and I know from that is that trying to get them all using technology was kind of difficult. It's probably changed now. You'd imagine with COVID and all the rest of it. I think we've seen a significant shift of every single human being, whether or not they're a potential staff member or a business that you could potentially deal with. Yeah. They all know how to do everything now. Yeah, Zoom is second nature. But you can't get a good look and feel and indication of someone unless you're face to face. Yeah. In hospitality, they need to be personable and they need to be warm and all the rest of it.
I think we're pretty lucky with Olmo and Joanna. Anyway, we actually knew them from other relationships and other friendship groups, and knew them well within the industry. So we knew of them anyway, which was great. And but it's still having that face-to-face meeting with them pre-opening was tough, but it was probably tough on them as well, new job and trying to do this on the line, but they're still here. They're still here.
That's
which is
good.
We're doing something right, but so we were lucky leading up to opening that all our front of house interviews were face to face. So
cool.
And
and the fact that you had two key staff that were here and engaged and are still here, so they must have been loving it. That's helpful.
Yeah.
Cool. Who came up with the name? And can you give us a background behind the name?
Conspirators Brewing. Yeah, it's the name was one of the hardest sort of things.
It was.
There was a lot of discussion, a lot of names sort of thrown around. I think Co-Conspirators works really well for us. We have this idea of inspiring with others and co-conspiring, and the name just sort of works with our ethos. Sort of had the idea of having these underworld characters as part of our brand, and it's the name took a few discussions.
Yeah,
and it's a hard one when you're telling people your email address, because it's quite a
long name.
It's quite a long name, and you have to spell it every time. But
does it have a and has it got a hyphen in it or not, type of thing? I remember organising today, you have to type in email addresses and stuff. I'm like, shit, has it got a hyphen or not?
That's a discussion we've had.
Always had two large C's or just one large C or a dash, but Yeah.
I think it took us about 12 months, 2 years in before we finally decided, because I think all of us are writing it differently.
Yeah.
So it's
Yes.
at some point we figured it out as a hyphen.
Hyphen in it, 2 large C's. So,
There you go.
there you go.
Everyone, there you go.
Yeah.
Awesome. So obviously you open, and you open at a time when everything was a challenge, and you also opened at a time when everyone was keen to get out there and actually get amongst it. As I said to you before, when we were doing the sound test, we saw this enormous doubling of revenue within a lot of businesses for the month of November as opposed to the month of September. And that was when everything kind of reopened and lockdowns finished. Obviously, it comes off after everyone's restocked, but could you run me through how did you guys fare for the month? Because you guys opened in November or October.
We opened it was the 13th, 14th of December.
Of December, yeah.
So it was like a week prior to Christmas. We were planning on opening probably about 6 weeks before, and as I mentioned before, that period where the builders were going to have that sort of just stretched out our opening date. Obviously there was definitely a spike pre-Christmas, and then it sort of leveled out in January. Because everyone was free, everyone wanted to go regional or go interstate because they could. So, so we had a really high spike, and then sort of got a bit quieter because I think those new restrictions in January came again. So mask wearing, all that sort of thing again happened in January.
The way that you guys sell your beer, obviously selling as much beer as you can is your job.
Yep.
So people come to the venue, they'll sit here and they'll have a few beers. Do you guys serve any food with that, or can people bring in their own food? How does that work?
We have a little mix because obviously our kitchens, as Deon mentioned earlier, we've got a few more things we've got to do with the venue. One of the major things we're going to add to the venue is the kitchen. It's all ready to go, and the space is there, but it's just not filled out. Currently using it as an office at the moment. But for food now, so we have a really great rotation of food trucks that come in, and we've got a vacant lot next door, and the guys park out there, and that's what we're doing sort of Thursday, Friday nights, and Saturday day and Sunday day. We've also got some really great local pie guy that's called Pie Thief, and they're based originally at Footscray, and now they've got a second store in Fitzroy North. It's called Pie Thief. So we do hot pies behind the bar all the way through the week.
Beautiful.
And just sort of just like little bar snacks behind the bar. So
yeah, that's awesome. It gives people range, and you can also build. You can obviously build themes around nights and that type of thing, right? Yeah, cool. And then do you guys do? So there's two other areas where most breweries focus on to be able to distribute their product.
Yeah.
Number one is wholesale. The other one is through online.
Yeah.
And we've seen a huge spike in online, and it's come off a bit now.
Yeah.
It's come off actually quite a lot now. Yeah. But can you tell us what do you guys do around in those two spaces?
Yeah. I'll jump in. I guess it's kind of really a bit Deon space and me who runs sales. So obviously when we were Gypsy Brewing, it was full wholesale. And I guess from that perspective, that's all we were doing pre the brew pub opening. So we're doing a little bit out here for wholesale at the moment, but the majority of the beer here goes behind the bar. But so all the beer we're doing is wholesale, right up until sort of December of last year. As mentioned with online, excuse me, being a Gypsy brewer, we weren't able to sell online, and we got an exemption through the VCGLR with our liquor license to sell online during COVID. So we made really good we really pushed online sales during that time, and we saw a huge increase of online sales. As you mentioned, it is dropped off now a little bit, But yeah, during the time it was big. It was big revenue for us too.
It's kind of it's interesting that you guys are obviously forced to focus on wholesale and online, right? So it's kind of not I mean, as bad as everything was, it's kind of not a bad way to start, because a lot of brewers early on, they focus on just kind of just doing it in their tap house or in their hospitality venue, and it's hard to make that shift across to selling wholesale and selling online and scaling. But the fact that you started that way, do you see that as potentially a net benefit now, or do you just say, oh, I wish we could have opened earlier, kind of thing?
No, I think that's a good point. I think for us, we were sort of forced into the path that we followed through Gypsy Brewing. It was all going to be wholesale first before opening the venue. I think with the online sales, so much of what we do is determined by COVID and restrictions, and I think during that period we had to pivot, and as so many people have had to move stock from keg to pack, and then back from pack to keg, and getting the whole sort of online store set up. It was something you sort of just had to roll with the punches, and COVID determined when you could do what. So I think for us, doing wholesale first and then opening the venue is an advantage for us. I think the whole idea behind starting sort of small with Gypsy Brewing is to build a brand. We've certainly done that. We've built quite a following through Gypsy Brewing, which has allowed us to open a venue and having that sort of remade audience there already. So it was
because
a good way to go.
When I contacted you guys, I don't know, a while ago, I actually thought you guys were like a lot bigger than what you actually are. So what you just said was completely accurate. I mean, I was kind of under the impression that the brand was all brand, because it's a brand that really does stand out, and it's a name that stands out, and you've the branding has been really good here. Did you guys do all the branding and all that stuff yourself, or did you use a design company, or how did you do all that?
There's a design company of one person. His name's Clint Weaver, and his brand's called Pocket Bagels. So we started off with very simple branding, which we thought would work at the time, and then we got in contact with Clint from a mutual friend. Her name's Emily Day. She's a journalist. She was doing a bit of craft beer writing back in the day, and she introduced us to Clint, and it just fit. Like we always had, like Deon said, we always had this vision of these northern suburbs, gangland characters that would go theme through all our beer. And we told him, this is the beer we want to call it. And it's even to this day, after nearly 6 years, he would just take the name and say, all right, what kind of area do you want to take this character? And we're like, this is a few dot points, and then you just create this amazing character. And it's featured throughout all our beers in cans. So, he's just started off by himself, and he's still on his own and gets some help now and again, but his main focus is craft beer brands, and he has a few under his belt now, which is amazing. So no,
it's good. It's it's unique, and you have to be unique. It's a busy space, especially now. I mean, we've probably had a couple of hundred open in the last 24 months, I reckon, across Australia. So it's a bloody busy space, and you do have to stand out. And you guys do a good job.
Yeah, and that's what he does for us. I think people automatically gravitate to our beers in the fridge because of the characters. They may not know who we are, but they can see the canner, and they might pick pick it up out of the lineup, as they say. No pun intended. Yep. He's a bit of a magician, and just brings our beers to life, which is amazing.
Yeah, awesome. The last 6 months has been a really challenging time. Especially the last 3 months has been a really challenging time for a lot of businesses, especially producing businesses that have to get raw materials from elsewhere. Can you run me through what's been the biggest challenge over the last 12 weeks, and where are you seeing the cost spikes and all that type of thing in your purchasing? And just if you could run me through what effect has it had on selling at the other end? So, has the trade in the actual brew pub, has that been affected at all with the economy starting to get a bit shaky, or has it kind of stayed strong?
Talk about ingredients.
Yeah. So, no, it's true. I think particularly transport costs have gone up. I think we've seen that across the board, and that's had a knock-on effect for virtually everything we get delivered to the brew pub has had an increase in cost. At this stage, we've sort of worn that cost, but it is just it's just a fact things are getting more expensive for sure. As far as sort of sourcing ingredients, transport is the biggest challenge, and getting things delivered reliably on a particular date, that's a big challenge. It's and everyone sort of is quite transparent about it. We can't guarantee you can get things the next day, whereas previously we were. So it can take a few days, take a week to get certain things, and that's the biggest challenge as far as sort of transporting. People sometimes forget. I think that fuel goes into every single input in. It's an input into every product that we ever purchase in our lives, and that's the main driver behind cost increases. But additionally, there's this. A lot of the driving network couldn't stay here during COVID, and they left because of the government wasn't and they're well within their rights, but they obviously weren't supporting people that were here from other countries. And what that meant is that an enormous part of the driving network, massive chunk of it, has been taken out, and therefore you've got this shortage of drivers. And we're seeing that across every logistics company is complaining about a shortage of drivers. So all these things, they just go towards high costs, longer wait times. And then from a front of house perspective, can you talk to me about any effect that you've seen over the last, even say 6 or 8 weeks, because it's really only been visibly on shaky grounds for probably the last 12, and then probably a bit more so in the last 6 or 8.
I guess for the brew pub, it's we're heading into winter, and people are sort of want to sit in the sun and drink beer, and it's just as cool as coming to a brewery anywhere in the winter than it is coming through the summer. So we sort of seen a little bit of and I think this is with all hospitality venues at the moment, that you kind of see a bit of a drop in numbers through the door. But we're not the only ones. We've spoken to a lot of brewery friends of ours that have also got venues, that hospitality venues, and are seeing the change in people coming. I mean, it's numerous factors where, obviously people with COVID and being sick, people not wanting to still go out in the winter time, people just with cold and flu symptoms don't want to come out. It's not necessarily a COVID situation. So,
and it's bloody cold.
And it's cold.
Yeah, it's bloody cold. Sometimes you just want to stay at home.
You just want to stay at home. So, I guess that's what we've kind of seen in the short term, including logistics. I mean, it's finding staff has always been very hard. Finding good staff is good. I mean, we have a really great network of front of house staff and sort of senior management staff that have come on board. But Joanna, our venue manager, when we first started recruiting, when she, in her previous roles, she put a job ad for a casual staff member, and she would get 100 applications, and we're only seeing maybe 20-30% now of that 100 for people applying. Wow. And that also comes down to the network, like you said, with international students wanting hospitality jobs and those sorts of things. I mean, you're seeing that come back now, which is great.
Yep.
And we're good for staff at the moment. We'll start probably planning on recruitment sort of when we start getting a bit warmer again. And hopefully that network of staff will come back. But that's another big factor, is finding good staff that can pour a beer.
And that actually want to work.
And want to do the hours. That's another big tough thing for us.
Yeah, it's I think it's something that has always been in hospitality, but never like what it is now.
Never.
From, I hired, 20 something staff for a venue that I started 4.5 years ago, and we got them in a month. We'd hired those people, and those people stayed with us for quite a while.
Yeah.
So, but there's a undertone of people not really wanting to get out there and work, and people want a lot of money as well. And in hospitality venues, people need to understand that there's just not $35 an hour to pay people, or $30 an hour.
I mean, like I said, we've been very lucky since we've been open. We have 5 front of house staff that rotate from Wednesday to Sunday, plus our venue manager. Directors work shifts too when we need to, so we're very lucky. We've got a great network of team that work really hard for us, but that initial lot of people that we needed to find, those great people that we've got, as mentioned, we probably only got maybe 30 applications for casual staff. Mm-hmm. And Joanna said, normally she would get like 100, and then you sift through the ones that you want. And we interviewed 10, and we finished it with 6, and that's pretty good.
It's a pretty good conversion rate.
Oh yeah, very very happy. Touch wood, we've been very lucky with staffing, and we're growing every day, so which is great.
Awesome. And where to from here? Obviously, you guys have got plans with the kitchen going to come on board at some point. Can you talk to me about any plans that are not overly secretive?
Oh yeah, sure. Just got our first sales rep, because Maggie, Deon, Tim and I have been doing all the wholesale sales ourselves for the last 5 years. So Scotty Thompson has just come on board last week, and we finally got a rep on the road for us, which is great. So that's the biggest news we've got. That's from a wholesale perspective. For the venue, obviously the next step would be kitchen, which we're in planning stage at the moment. We don't know when that's going to open just yet.
Have you got an idea of the type of cuisine that you'll be doing?
Yes, but we're not going to say.
That's
still a secret.
There has to be some secret.
It's got to be some secret. But we're open a kitchen. That's as far as we've.
Yeah.
I think the actual menus are work in progress.
Yeah.
There's a few
it's always a work in progress.
That's right.
Yeah.
We've got some ideas, but nothing in black and white yet. Yeah. So at the moment we're at 195 seater. We've got plans. So where we are now is a family area. We've got our plans for a mezzanine level to go on top of us here, and another mezzanine level on the top of the bar.
Yep.
So we can start looking at capacity of 350 eventually, long term.
Have you guys had it full yet? Like, have you had 195 people in here?
Yes, we had a festival in April, which we had there. It was full.
That would have been hectic.
It was lucky it was good weather, so everyone was going outside and that sort of thing. And the final plan of the venue is we currently have a set of stairs at the front, which we're currently in process of finalising a rebuild of those stairs, and the room at the front is going to be our office eventually. Hopefully that will be done in the next few months, and that will be a second bar. That'll be the last project. Second bar, private function space, event space, whiskey bar, speakeasy, whatever you want to do.
So that'll be 300 plus seats.
Yeah, eventually.
That's a big venue.
It is a big venue.
That's a really big venue. But I guess if you can have those in summer, that's when you're filling it. If you can fill it multiple times in the summer, it'll do. It does wonders.
With the kitchen and pumping out food, and
absolutely,
that's the goal. So
awesome.
That's sort of the 5-10 year plan in a 2-minute speech. But and then obviously from a production perspective,
obviously production brewery as well. That's sort of way off, and I think the model we have currently is working for us. But it makes sense for us to take over the Gypsy Brewing completely and have our own production facility. Yeah.
And what's your number one beer that you sell here? And what's the beer that people would know you guys for?
It's probably the Matriarch. Matriarch's a beer that brewed fairly early on, which is a New England style hazy IPA. And it's the one beer that we brew fairly regularly. The other, we tend to do all sort of seasonal releases and one-offs and keep things new and fresh and new beers coming out all the time. But the Matriarch has a bit of a following, and it's probably the one beer we brew.
I was going to say, with the theme that you guys run, which is you kind of put a character behind the beers and all that type of thing, it makes a lot of sense that you would do kind of short runs and be doing a lot of different beers. It's the perfect brand to be doing that with.
Yeah.
I think it's what our customers want as well. I think we're sort of probably more towards the pointy end of the market, and I think those people always look for something new and fresh. And what's the new beer? So sort of where we what we have to do.
Awesome.
Make a new beer.
Guys, thanks so much. That was fantastic. Guys, Co-Conspirators, they are in Brunswick on Victoria Street in Brunswick. You can't miss them. They're a big, beautiful brick building, or an old factory with a empty lot, and we should be able to find some of the food trucks in the empty lot one night.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks, Tim.